So we had a little bit of gap up, but they failed to hold it. Value still shifting higher, right? So ultimately anything below 51.95 would be weakness. There's a few gaps here. I mean, within 4 days, we have two major gaps. Like, quickly revisit these VPOCs on the bottom. So let me just go on the other chart. Let's see what we got in terms of levels.
That was such a cool chipmunk you caught.
They've been killing me. I've been eating pretty much everything in my backyard.
Oh no. You got the humane traps, I see.
Yeah, I'm gonna relocate them a little bit further out. All right, so I mean,
You know what they don't like? They hate peppermint.
Oh yeah, well, I have a lot of peppermint in the backyard.
They don't like it.
I'll try to pour some in their holes. All right, so perfect. I would say decent D shape here if you guys are looking at this. The only problem I see with what they did here is why is it so spaced out? Because this looks like a weekly time frame for me. Why are they so spaced out? So they weren't able to really hold that gap. But usually when you gap up or gap down, you want to continue in that direction. So if you guys remember from the PowerPoint, you guys remember the types of open that we had? One was if you're able to, kind of gap over the RTH, right, or the PDH, and you don't want to go fall back inside. So they breached it a little bit, and then if you looked at the initial balance today, they tried to crack above, right, and they failed. Typically, most of the time, what happens, you guys know what this is called? Do you guys remember now?
80% rule, the fail to break high.
It's just an IB failed auction, right? And an IB failed auction says if you're not able to hold, here, right, to next day, most likely you're going to go in the opposite direction, right? So it would be good if they come back here again and then fail. That would be ideal, but there's a high chance that, they open within this area tomorrow. I'm not sure where we are at the moment, but if they open in here and then reject it out of the value, that means that, whatever you want to call this past couple of days, right? If it was a short cover rally or true buying, we're going to test some of the key supports here, right? So I would definitely watch for, look above here and then a fail. That would be the ideal scenario, right? Because that would confirm the IB auction has failed. As soon as they peak above and they get back inside of the prior day, we can even make it a little zone here at 220, 221 because the value area high chance we're going to probably break the PDL. In terms of auction, right? So far, right, the way it looks is everything's gapping higher, value area shifting higher, value area high, higher high, POCs higher high. So they're really doing a good job on the auction. But if you think about this close versus today, so think about the day prior. You open at the lows, you close at the highs, right? What happened today?
Opposite.
You
Close lower than we open.
you went above, and then you close below, right? So usually that's a little bit of a sign of no net new buyers, right? So maybe the buying is getting a little dried up here. And, if you check the volume a little bit on these candles, right, there's not really much volume being bought up or done at all. And you can go on daily and take a look at it. Look at the volume today. Or I guess that would be here. Look at the volume here. It's pretty pathetic volume when you think about it, right? And even on this whole run that we had, the volume is really not checking out in terms of auction agreeing on this direction right now or so far. Okay. So for tomorrow, what would you guys watch for bearish level? What would you be a bear below?
Below 5,200?
Why
51.92.
5,200?
Well, it's like close to the value area low, and then like there's some consolidating there and a big high volume node from the day before.
I would look for 51.
I would say that spike base from yesterday.
Correct. You want to go below the spike base, right? So they're able to hold above the 5207, I believe, was the right here was the high, right? And that was the spike end. If they're not able to hold this, right, that would mean that they're still rejecting this whole price action here, and things will probably turn bearish and we will fly down all the way here, 5182 to all the way to 5179. And then you have some decent access here, right? Access lows here. And then on the top here, you don't have the strongest access, right? So the I period has 2 TPOs. So it's not extreme on the top, but I would say if tomorrow you lose the 5210, high chance, you're probably going to test 5199. I would expect buyers to show up at this level just because the psych level of 5200 and the retail is going to be all over it. But ultimately, I would look if we're able to dip below that and reject that M period that we had, the spike. I think it would be really, really, bearish at that point, because what else would happen on a daily?
Start framing down.
Lower high. Framing down.
Yeah, correct. We will start framing down, and that's ideally what, whenever you're framing up, we talked about this. I believe everybody should understand that. If not, you can hear you say something. But so far, we were just making higher highs, right? I mean, at one point, we were making, lower highs and lower lows, and then we switched it here, and then we started making higher highs and higher lows. And you can check to see, how healthy is this auction by looking to see how are we getting there, right? So you had wide balance here, right, in a P shape. Then you have in a trend, you have a B shape profile, and then you have a consolidating at the top. Just think what I just said, the order. You have wide balance, smaller balance with a B shape, and then at the top you have a compressed D shape. Does that sound topping or bullish to you?
It's not like it's slowing down. No.
Sounds topped
Yeah,
out.
no, not very.
It's
Sounds
slowing
topped
down.
out. Even otherwise.
Yeah, slowing down. So tomorrow, if we break this PDL, I think it's a reversal, right? Because when you have these compressed, especially markets never go uptrend down unless there's news or whatnot, right? That you get those nasty, casino candles. But otherwise, they usually do something like this, right? You have a little bit of short cover rally. You have a P, lowercase p, and then you have this kind of consolidation. So tomorrow, if they really crack that, I would say spike base would be pretty good if they're able to do that. But if they break the PDL and you have a little bit of HVN, which happens to be April value area high, on higher time frames, it would mean a lot too, right? Because on higher time frames, when you think about this, let me just go here. I'll hide the SVP for a second. So if this is our higher time frame, I don't know how I had 05 there for it. I had a little bit lower. I had 5205, I believe, but that's fine. So even let's say this is our value area high, right? And you see that we were overlapping down after the March highs. They're indicating we're slowing down a little bit. And now you have so far, you peaked above the value area high in April. And if you're not able to hold it, right? I mean, we're literally right at it. I'm just looking at order flow. We're basically auctioning right here, right now. If you're not able to hold this, and there's a high chance that you most likely visit this this little 5, it's probably 3-month POC at this point if I was to take a wild guess. Yep, it's a 1, 2, 3, 3.5 months POCs right here of 5105-ish. So most likely you visit this. If you're not able to hold that 5200, 5205 I had, then you're basically rejecting any value above April. And the first target would be, I would say, this 3.5 months POC. And then below that, you would have obviously a test, depending on when they get there, maybe a test here somewhere at 38.5. And you guys should ring a bell at this level. There's quite a bit. And then ultimately it would be the April value area low, which seems to be off on my chart a little bit. Does that make sense to most? Why I'm talking about this?
Shorty, can you please repeat that beginning part? Which level will confirm that the April value area is rejected?
Say it again.
That determination of, April value area high is rejected, that part.
That's correct. So, I mean, if you look at it right here, so just tomorrow, if you're not able to, let's say, auction above this, I'm not sure how I got 05, but I guess we had, maybe it was this year. So, but this is our, I would say even now, this is your 3-month SIG is at 5207. If you're not able to hold this 13 to 7 on bigger time frames, what this would be telling you is that we are not interested in trading here, that the value is most likely lower and we have to go find those buyers. Because you see the value areas are shifting since March, April, and even now it's shifting, right? The fair price seems to be 5,100, and now you're 100 points above the fair price of 3 months fair price. So if you can't build value here, and then there's quite a bit of, problem for bulls here. So if you guys look, there's a little bit of an LVN here. And then you have, 52.35, which we had. And then you have also like 52.47 as a major area for rejection. So if they can't build this value here quickly, find some net new buyers and agree that this, needs to be rejected and then ultimately crack 52.50, we have a high chance to visit this 5,011. And then if they can't hold this, things can really, really speed up then downwards. I would expect somewhere 47.80s.
There should be another decent bounce between 50.74 and 50.94 because there's still a 500 even SPY put wall, like $1.5 billion worth at 500 even. So there's usually bounce around there or sometimes just under.
Yep. I mean, I don't trade options like that, but yeah, there is some kind of gamma that's sitting there potentially, right?
It's huge.
Yeah. And I think that's probably here February value area high. And I think just from looking at this, you would have a little bit of a skinny belly here in that area. So
Yeah, see, Shorty, what we see is that in the last sell, every stock or index rebounded from some point in the February value area, either high like NVDA or POC like Amazon and so on. So question is that what will mark that market wants to auction below February value area?
what would it take to auction below?
Yeah.
Obviously would take aggressive initiative sellers, right? For somebody to believe that the value is below. And you see that we basically have not even, let me turn this on. So you can see we came all the way pretty much to February value area low, a few points short, and they're eager to get it back up. And that was the February VPOC that we had, right?
Yeah.
So if they're not able to hold this, right? So obviously they got out of the February, right? And now they're targeting March area here, and we are above April. If we can't find net new buyers here, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't even test here or below a little bit, maybe even 49.18 soon. This would be my next target if they can't build value here. It would be 49.20, because at that time they would probably sweep this. And I wouldn't necessarily turn bearish just because they cracked this low here, but many people would be in the puts, and this is a massive level here, guys. Until this level here is cleared, like this little area, you cannot be bearish on this. So until they clean this area, they're just consolidating, guys. It's just a bracket of, most likely be 4 months. But we can play bullish and bearish in the bracket right now. You're making higher highs and higher lows in 4 hours. Till they clean this up, Sonny, and it's going to take quite a bit of effort by the bears to get this through, right? And then you have a major level here at 47, 80, 90. It's going to be huge here. And look at that. I mean, there's nothing there, right?
They will be defending that since external
Oh,
news.
of course, yeah. They're gonna do everything they can. Okay, so just to kind of summarize the obviously they hit the 24 today, and they hit it perfectly today, and that's I think the level me and Rockets were talking about the day before, and they swept it. And then this is a typical behavior, guys. If you don't know much about Wyckoff, I don't mind holding a session on it to kind of bring you guys up to speed. It's something that a lot of us learned, and I've talked about it before. But basically, this is identical. You consolidate, you peak above, you fail, you test. Ultimately, you're gonna make a new low, and that's what they did, right? On this time frame here, 15 minutes, they cracked a new low, decent low, and now they cannot crack inside this value area. If they're to come, probably, I'm looking, they would most likely do something like this, come for a test, and that'll be the interesting spot for me to look for a short. And then if you go on to volume profile and you just grab this, let's not extend it. You're looking at somewhere 5221 and 75 to this zone here for potential rejection. But let's see what they do. So,
Hey, Shorty, I'm sorry. I guess when they say we're gonna sweep the lows or sweep the highs, that's really Wyckoff method playing out in a sense.
it just means your liquidity. So think about it. A lot of people that are support buyers, right? Let's say I want to buy support here. I'm gonna buy the support. Somebody might say this is, double bottom or whatever pattern, and they buy here. Where do you think their stop loss is?
Right below it.
Right. So what they typically do is if you got in here and your stop loss is right here, well, they're like, oh, okay, well, let me trigger your stop loss, because when you do a stop loss, what do you have to do? Let's say you're long and your stop loss is hit. What do you have
Put a
to do?
limit in. You got to put an order in.
But how is it treated?
It's a sell order.
It's a sell order, right? And if they buy your shares lower and they have intention of going up, then this is called a creek on the bottom, right? So basically they consolidated here. They trap. This pattern repeats a lot. Some people call it pattern maker, money maker, right? They sweep this below, they grab your shares lower. Now you're out of position. And then you're like, oh man, we're gonna go lower, right? And then you justify yourself for shorting here. And then you short here again, and then they do this. So if you're
That's how they
short
run
here,
the racket.
and when you're short here, what do you do here then?
You gotta cover,
You buy to cover, so you're fueling, this.
yeah.
So that's why I watch for the sweeps, right? It's a simple concept of liquidity grab, and they do that. I mean, that's pretty much what happens a lot. Today, when I hopped on live at 3:44, I said they're about to tap 204, and then Q, there was huge liquidity sitting at 204, and it wasn't tapped for like 30 minutes into the close. And I didn't even say that, and 18 points drop on Q to 5204. And it was pretty, it was a good close, right? So they're moving and shifting. But does that make sense? Does that answer Artes?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the best way is to just wait for it to.
Well, that's why I say look below and then regain those levels, right? Because that's ultimately, that's going to be your bread and butter in trading, right? Because I learned something early, right? And I wrote it the other day on Twitter, but like early bird gets the worm, the second mouse gets the cheese. You let those early birds get the worms and you get the first mouse, so you can go die on the cheese, and then you wait for your setups, right? You don't have to be in a rush in trading to make money. Like being in a rush really does not, it doesn't do anything for you, right? A lot of people are so obsessed being the first one to call the bottom, the first one to call the top. Great, and so what? If I can make 15 points somewhere with higher probability than you did trying to short every pop, or go long somewhere, well, how about if you break about a level and you can't hold that level? Let's say it's value area high or low or something along those lines, then, it gives you a little bit more confirmation there. And even if you look at the weekly profile, right? Today is Tuesday, I believe. Tomorrow is Wednesday. So halfway through the week, you're building a little bit of a double distribution, right? It looked like a P shape, but we have this high volume node. So if they can't hold this POC, I mean, you see that there's a little bit of skinny belly here on LVN, and that's the spike base we have. So there's a high chance that they can come here and protect it, right? And then build some value out of here. And then towards Friday, if they're able to run it from here and basically inflate this, just imagine this profile getting a little bit like this and leave this P shape like this would be a nasty P shape, right, on the weekly. So if they can hold this value here, right, which is an important level coming up, that would be a super duper close on weekly because they're in control, right? We are in balance on the weekly so far. They attempted to break today, but you can't really rely on developing value area high on Tuesday. We did have some levels there, but nonetheless, right? You see what they're trying to do. They're trying to build value. They're holding this developing POC. If they can't, then let's say they give us one more test tomorrow, ideally, and then they fail this level, I wouldn't be surprised same day that we hit this 5204 or maybe 199.5. Yeah, 192.5 would be a good zone. Does that make sense? It looks pretty weak so far.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Let's see. In terms of spike, the newer people, did you guys look at it today when it happened? You guys have questions on it? It's exciting to see you guys not have questions on it. I mean, you just started.
I was actually at work during the spike.
And you're open?
Shorty, can you dumb it down
Okay.
one more time? I was watching it today, but can you dumb it down one more time?
Well, let's do it real quick. So I'm just gonna focus on yesterday first, right? So we know. Let me split the blocks. I asked TradingView to implement when you split the blocks, I want to dictate like split last 2 days or right click on a profile and merge. Let's see, they added this. That's good. You guys,
Oh, wow.
see this? So I can merge the profiles now. So if you go on, I actually sent them a few changes. Let me see. There, so let me dumb this down here. So since we're talking about, the actual spike, the only period that really matters for us is the M period, and that's this candle right here, and you can tell by looking at the letters M, and it's nothing more than the last 30 minutes of trading. If you guys remember from the training itself, A period is 9:30 to 10, B period 10 to 10:30, and so on until you get to M. We're not going to cover the alphabet side of it, but that's the M period. It's the last period. TPOs work on, auction and validations, right? If this is true single prints, and if it was true, what does single prints mean? Who wants to kind of define it so people understand it?
Single print.
There is aggression between other time frame participants.
That's correct. So usually when you have single prints, that means that there was one side was more aggressive on buying than the other. Do not confuse it that please don't confuse it that there's more buyers or sellers in any shape or form. It's not. It's the aggression and how the orders are executed. So if there was an aggression or emotional buying in this case, we cannot verify M period until tomorrow. So when the A period, right, when you look at A period here, split it. Come on, fella. So if you look at this, they opened at 5216, right? That's opening above the base, above everything. So all they had to do to confirm bullish bias was 5207 on the M period, because the M period high goes up to right here. I'm sorry, 5207.5. Yep. So as long as they opened above that, that means that they rejected the M. If then, let's say, we weren't even close to it, but let's say tomorrow they come in and they look at the data, right? So the J period was high, and then the M period made new higher highs. So if you want to find the spike, the spike could have occurred on the bottom, what period did it have to clean up to spike on the bottom?
What period should have cleaned up?
What period
Yeah, the F.
break?
F. Yeah. F and A. Yeah.
Everybody agrees, F?
Yeah.
But the price was already in A period, so why would I need something to be verified here? A period's already there.
The
That
single
was my
print.
question.
No, I set up a trap question. I just want to see who understands it. It tells me quickly. It's the lowest letter of the day on the upper and the lower end. That's where the spikes get created. Does that make it simple? So it would be the A period. If you're able to break this, this becomes your spike on the bottom, right? Because here, the J period was the high, was it not? You see how, let's see. So you have the C period, higher, high,
Wait. Can you repeat that?
The highest period before 330 is where the spikes need to break to occur. So J period high is sitting at 599, and then the spike happened. So that's our spike base. That's where the high was the price auction to here, and it got invalidated by K period because K period made lower highs, right? And then this would have been a tail at one point. If all of the price action stayed below, this would have been what? The J period would have been what?
Access.
Selling tail.
It would have been selling tail. Then at 330, somebody was like, man, let's just buy it. Buy it as much as we can. And they broke that J period high. So this is your spike. This is what needs to be validated or carry forward, as they say, the next day. And M period here, obviously we opened above it. I think we opened at 16 something. And then, they auctioned, they closed the gap, but we didn't kill all of the excess, right? Or the area where they have to go. They went to 205 as the lowest here. So now if they can erase this, and let's say they reject below, that means the M period is rejected. Most likely you're gonna test, I would say, first target would be value area high, which is not a lot of points, but ultimately you would be going for POC and value area low, which is somewhere around 5180 or so. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
More sense.
highest last. Basically, you have to kill out the other highest time frame.
That's correct. So if you go
Okay.
here, right? Let's see. It says wait, blah blah. Last period M for the 8. Not pay attention. So you see how in this case, usually I would say 80% of the time, the spikes occur with the L period. And if the L period, right, 50% of L period, I like that setup. If 50% of the L period's gone, I typically take that short. But you see here, L period was again, a spike, and they spiked it. And I'm kind of giving you opening beyond the spike, that's bullish. Opening within, that's semi-bullish. And then opening below, this is bearish, right? That means you rejected the spike. Does that give you guys enough visual?
Yeah, I have a question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to use that type of method on the weekly time frame as well, or is that only for daily?
Usually spikes get validated, then they carry forward to the day to day. I don't think you would have a spike in weekly time frame.
Gotcha.
Everything else applies to weekly, but not the spike.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense to everyone, especially in your folks? It's a pretty powerful tool to use.
Extremely helpful.
I'll try to document some of the examples that we've had with spikes. Honestly, I love trading spikes. I would say my double distribution, single print separation, the retest of those areas, my number one setup on TPO, number two is spikes. Like today, you could have easily collected 14 points on ES, probably risk-free.
Like going with the flow of the single prints. Like if the single prints rocketed us up on the retest of it, going long on that.
Typically,
And then if
yes.
the single prints are what brought us down on the pop up into that, take it short back down.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because those are where the
Especially
emotional
full
buyers are.
distribution.
So it's all right.
That's correct.
Yeah, I've known those are like pre a limit with a stop type thing. Like those are instant. If it comes to it, 5-10 points like fast. Like you gotta be fast.
I would agree with that. If you don't have
Yeah.
orders, sometimes like today I took ES short somewhere. I think it was 52.18. I mean, it was pretty instant, about 4 or 5 points. And if you catch that at 350, you got to think about time, opportunity. You're not guaranteed a lot of points 10 minutes into close. If you catch 5 points and drawdown was a quarter of a point, I take that, right? And I have to consider not to be greedy. Oh, it's around 10, 20, 30 points. We're gonna dump. You can't take that, right? There was a setup for a short, not a lot of time left on the clock for catching profits, right? Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'll be on tomorrow. I'll be trading live early in the morning. Hopefully, you guys can make it and we can look to make some money.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shorty.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you guys. Have a
Thank
good night.
you.